Hello, my friends. Let's start with the news that the Russians have already begun striking Ukrainian territory with their new extremely powerful intercontinental missiles, of which they still have a very large number. This means we can expect strikes on Kyiv and potentially other cities soon. These missiles are impossible to intercept, which guarantees 100 accuracy target. As a result, the Russians are already threatening to hit decision making centers. Additionally, lawmakers have been warned to avoid locations that might be targeted. Due to a possible missile strike on the Verkhovna Rada, lawmakers and their families have been advised to limit their presence within the government quarter, sources reported to UP. The Russians are also announcing that they will close airspace on November 22nd 23rd for another round of strikes. Russia is closing certain airspace zones for missile testing from November 22nd to 23rd. Other reports indicate it might be from November 23rd to 24th, according to Russian media. Such announcement also came during the Orishnik strike towards Dnipro. Are they stirring tensions or is there a real threat? Unfortunately, we'll know the truth when it happens, so don't ignore the warnings. It's clear that any strikes on Russia will now result in equally painful responses in Ukraine. As a result, the Verkhovna Rada will not be holding a session today. In general, lawmakers haven't been rushing to work lately, and now it seems they won't be seen there for quite some time. But yesterday evening, information emerged from the White House. They stated that Russia bears responsibility for the escalation, although it's clear to everyone that the Russians used this missile for the first time as a way to show their response to strikes on Russian territory. The US also said that they were aware of the strike a day before it happened. This is why all US embassies in Ukraine were closed to protect American lives. The United States was pre notified by Russia shortly before its strike with an experimental intermediate range ballistic missile on Ukraine's city of Dnipro through nuclear risk reduction channels, a US official said on Thursday. So it was all known in advance, and the US essentially had the situation under control. Um, Words cannot describe what is happening. It's clear that Putin has raised the stakes precisely due to their authorization to strike Russian territory. Now, new warnings about potential strikes on Kyiv are appearing, but last night Putin recorded a video address to everyone regarding the use of this new missile and the overall situation. Listen closely.
I want to inform the personnel of the Russian armed forces, citizens of our country, our friends around the world, as well as those who still harbor illusions about the possibility of strategically defeating Russia, about the events occurring today in the area of the special military operation. Specifically, after long-range Western-manufactured weapons were used on our territory and the course of escalation, provoked by the West in the conflict in Ukraine, continued. The US and its NATO allies announced permission to use their long-range precision weapons against the Russian Federation. Experts are well aware, and the Russian side has repeatedly emphasized, that using such weapons is impossible without the direct involvement of military specialists from the producing countries. On November 19th, 6 operational tactical ATACMS missiles US and on November 21st, during a combined missile attack, RMD Systems UK and US struck targets in Russia's Bryansk and Kursk regions. From this moment, as we have repeatedly emphasized before, the West-provoked regional conflict in Ukraine has taken on global characteristics. Our air defense systems repelled these attacks. The objectives that were evidently set before the enemy were not achieved. Fires that broke out at an ammunition depot in the Bryansk region from falling debris were extinguished, and there was no destruction. In the Kursk region, an attack was made on one of the command posts of our North grouping. Unfortunately, there were casualties and injuries among the external security personnel and service staff as a result of the attack and the air defense engagement. The command and operational staff at the command center were unharmed and are overseeing the actions of our troops in repelling and removing enemy units from the Kursk region as normal. Once again, I want to emphasize that the enemy's use of such weapons cannot affect the course of combat operations in the Special Military Operation Zone. Our forces are advancing successfully along the entire line of contact, and all assigned tasks will be accomplished. In response to the use of American and British long-range weapons on November 21st of this year, the Russian armed forces conducted a combined strike on a Ukrainian defense industry complex. In combat conditions, we tested one of the latest Russian medium-range missile systems, a ballistic missile with a non-nuclear hypersonic capability, which our missile operators named Oreshnik. The tests were successful, and the target was hit in Dnipro, one of the largest industrial complexes involved in missile and other weapon production was struck. The development of medium and short-range missiles is being carried out as a countermeasure to US plans to manufacture and deploy such missiles in Europe and the Asia-Pacific region. We believe the US made a mistake by unilaterally withdrawing from the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty in 2019. Today, the US not only produces this technology, but is also practicing deploying it to different regions worldwide, including Europe. Let me remind you that Russia voluntarily committed not to deploy medium and short-range missiles, as long as American weapons of this kind are not present in any region of the world. I repeat, our testing of the Oreshnik missile system in combat conditions is a response to NATO's actions towards Russia. The decision to deploy medium and short-range missiles will be based on the actions of the US and its satellites. Future target sites will be identified based on security threats to the Russian Federation. We consider ourselves justified in using our weapons against military facilities in countries that permit the use of their weapons against our targets. In the event of escalating aggressive actions, we will respond decisively and reciprocally. I advise the ruling elites of countries planning to deploy their military contingents against Russia to seriously reconsider. As part of our countermeasures, target sites in Ukraine will be announced in advance, giving civilians and citizens of friendly states the opportunity to leave dangerous areas for humanitarian reasons. Remember, these missiles hit targets at Mach 10 to 3 km s, and modern air and missile defense systems, including those being developed by the US and Europe, cannot intercept such missiles. Let me stress again, it is not Russia but the United States that destroyed the international security system, and by striving for hegemony, they are pushing the world toward global conflict. We have always preferred and are ready to resolve all disputes by peaceful means, but we are also prepared for any development. The response will always be proportional.
After Putin's statement, the UN called on Ukraine to take urgent steps to prevent further escalation. The UN urged both Russia and Ukraine to take immediate steps to prevent escalation following Putin's speech. This is yet another troubling development causing concern. Everything is moving in the wrong direction, said Stefan Dujarric, spokesperson for the UN Secretary General. He noted that the UN hopes the conflict will be resolved in accordance with international law and respect for territorial integrity. However, it's likely that Trump will ultimately play a decisive role. He is expected to speak with Zelensky to work toward ending this conflict. What are your thoughts on this? Be sure to share your opinions in the comments. Overall, the situation is gradually worsening. Just yesterday, Ukraine again struck Russian territory with drones, targeting a training ground in the Astrakhan region. There was also an attack on an industrial facility in the Rostov region, though there have been no new strikes on Russian territory involving Western missiles. Meanwhile, the situation on the front line is extremely challenging. Russian forces have made significant advances in the area around Velyka Novosilka, breaking through to the village of Novosilka by about 1 kilometer and 200 meters, and assaults are expected to begin soon. They have also managed to push the entire front line closer to Velyka Novosilka, with attacks now being recorded on the town's outskirts. This information has been officially confirmed by the general staff in their reports. In addition, the Russians have made a substantial breakthrough near the village of Rozdolne, with the outskirts now under their control. Returning to the topic of defensive lines, there is a notable lack of fortifications in the Velyka Novosilka area. If Russian forces continue advancing northward, they would encounter relatively open areas. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, extensive efforts are underway to strengthen defenses, and we hope strong defensive lines will be established in time to prevent further Russian progress in the direction of Kurakhove. Russian forces are also gradually advancing, having taken control of half of Kurakhove and the village of Dalne. They've managed to push past the village and secure positions along the road. This is a significant advancement for them, and fighting continues across nearly the entire front line. Additionally, they have captured Katerinivka, and now heavy battles are taking place for the control of Yelizavetivka. The overall situation is extremely dire, with the Ukrainian forces in near encirclement, as the front lines here are only 4 kilometers and 200 meters apart. Meanwhile, Russian forces continue to shell settlements north of the village of Razliv, which could indicate an attempt to break through there as well, to create a larger encirclement for Ukrainian forces troops. Russia is deploying considerable reserves, and their assaults and artillery strikes are relentless as they push forward aggressively. In the Pokrovsk direction, activity is also incredibly high, with over 30 assaults reported in a single day. Russian forces are making progress here as well. Recent successes have led them to begin assaults closer to the village of Zhovte, signaling that they are inching closer to the village of Shevchenko, a strategically important area. From Shevchenko, there is a direct road towards Pokrovsk. Subsequently, Russian forces are likely to attempt an advance towards Udachne to cut off another route to Pokrovsk. Additionally, they are pushing to get within 6 kilometers of the main road to Pavlograd, where they could establish firing range, which explains the heavy resources being directed here. Russian forces are slowly advancing, maintaining pressure on other front sections, although they haven't seen success near Mirnograd, where the Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all attacks. In the Toretsk direction, battles are ongoing for Sherbynivka and Toretsk itself. Intense shelling continues, but there have been no new advancements in this area, and the front line has remained unchanged over the past day. In the Chasiv Yar direction, Russian forces are continuing the assaults within the city, aiming to break through to its western part and capture it entirely. Havashalan persists in Konstantinivka and other nearby frontline settlements, but over the past day there have been no significant changes here due to relatively lower activity levels. In the Sloviansk direction, Russian forces have recently increased their activity. In addition to shelling, they have managed a breakthrough of approximately 7 kilometers to the village of Nikiforivka, where fighting is ongoing. Their exact objective remains unclear, but they may be attempting to reach a nearby water barrier to encircle Siversk, Overall, intense fighting continues in these areas. In the Siversk direction, Russian forces have also made new gains. They managed to extend their front line near the southern part of Siversk, advancing 2 kilometers 700 meters over the past day. However, shelling continues on Siversk, and Russian troops are now attempting to secure positions near the city, advancing from Verkhnyo-Kamensk. Fighting is ongoing in the villages of Serebryanka and Grigorivka, suggesting that battles for Siversk may soon begin. In the Kreminna direction, battles are ongoing in the areas around Terne and Zarichne, with strikes also reported on Liman. However, no notable changes in the front line have occurred here in the last 24 hours. In the Borova direction, Russian forces continue the assaults on the village of Zaporizhzhia with ongoing fighting for Zeleny High. However, no advancements have been reported and the front line remains unchanged with the past day. Further south, clashes are occurring around Chernyshina, but the situation remains stable there as well. In the Kupiansk direction, Russian forces are attempting to break through toward Kucherivka and are assaulting Kolesnikivka. Despite the efforts, the situation hasn't changed in the last 24 hours. In the Kharkiv direction, Russian forces continue to shell the area, though no new assaults have been recorded. However, daily fighting persists around Vovchansk, with the Russian troops attempting to advance toward the village of Staritsia. The Ukrainian armed forces have successfully repelled all attacks, keeping their front line stable. In the Kursk direction, Russian forces are also conducting shelling, but there have been no changes along the front line and no new assaults have been reported. It appears that Russian forces are not in a hurry to reclaim their own territory. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, Russian forces have increased the number of shelling attacks, with reports indicating that aviation is deploying glide bombs. This could be a preparation for a larger offensive, though no significant activity has been observed along the front line as of now. In the Kherson direction, Russian troops continue to try to break through to the islands and shell on the right bank. However, they haven't achieved any success and the front line remains unchanged. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.